Shop Talk is back. With the support of LSETF, we're sat down with some young, brilliant entrepreneurs to learn the secret behind their success so that just maybe we can do the same thing. Chioma, nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
You're in a space that I don't know all the most about when it comes to hair. How did you get into it and what brought about the passion?
So hair's something that I've always liked. I would always buy. So when human hair became a thing back in university, which was 2007, I would always buy hair. It was very expensive at the time. I remember back then it would cost £1,000 literally for a full head of hair. But I'll save, buy. Always look nice, have my hair wavy, straight, curly, just different looks that people, tend to like. So people would always ask me, where's your hair from? And then I would refer them to this company that I used to purchase from at the time. And, I got them so many clients. So they always call me, I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. We're making so much money from, the people that you're referring to, us to. And then one day I was just home and I was like, you know what? I'm spending so much money on this human hair thing. Let me go online and find suppliers because obviously they're buying it from somewhere. So I was supposed to spending £1,000. If I can spend 200, 300, why not? So I did the research, found suppliers, and then just ordered as a test, to see if it was good quality. As God will have it, it was great quality. Yeah. I wore it not to sell or anything, just so that I could have loads of hair and, change it up weekly. I went to uni that day and literally every single person that saw me stopped me. They were like, oh my God, where's your hair from? It's amazing. And obviously I wasn't going to give them the supplier that I just found. As an Ibo girl, I was like, oh, I've got some for sale. So I just told them the price that, I used to buy it for from those other ladies. And literally that week I sold every single bundle. So I was like, oh my God, this can actually be a business. I can actually start this seriously. So I reached out to my friend at the time, Kika, because she's the only other person who, looked good, had nice hair as well. And I figured that,
only other person that looked good.
That's no.
Anybody else that knows you, right?
No, not look good, just hair-wise, basically. Her hair looked good. I should have said that. So, she's the only other person that had really good hair. And so basically reached out to her and I was like, oh, what do you think about starting this as a business? And she was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And literally, that's how we started Good Hair.
When you started off, you were talking about the whole, you got in and the whole thing was human hair had become a crave. What is the difference quality-wise between what you were getting before and what human hair does for you now? And why should people consider it and think about it?
Okay, so back in the days, people wore synthetic hair. In fact, it started off with just expression. So what Nigerians will call attachment, So I think that's what most Black women did. It was great. It was nice braids, pretty simple. And then we moved on to the synthetic hair phase. Now, synthetic hair it would sort of look like this, but only for the first 3-4 days. After that, it would start to tangle, it would shed, it would look so dull, dry, and you couldn't really have it for more than 2 weeks. So most people would have to go to the salon either every week or, twice a month, which is pretty inconvenient, for a girl. So when human hair came about, it was the alternative that we've all been waiting for. First of all, it looked more natural. It has a lot more luster, shine. So it looks, more glamorous, prettier, and you can use and reuse it. So I've got wigs that I've had for 8-9 years and they still look exactly the same as when I first had it. So the longevity, plays a huge role. It is a great investment initially because obviously it's expensive, but then it lasts long. So technically you're spending less over time.
So let's talk about it business-wise, right? So you started off and effectively, originally it was you just wearing the hair, people liking it and then deciding to start to sell. How do you begin to push that as a business?
So luckily for us, it was, so at the time before social media became a thing.
Social media wouldn't have been
it wasn't really popping at the time. So it was really just word of mouth. We were lucky enough to test different suppliers, get our hands on really good quality hair, and it was just word of mouth. So somebody would wear it, their friend will see and be like, oh my God, I love your hair. Where'd you get it from? And we just people just recommend us to their friends. And then the Facebook boom started. So Facebook it became a thing. And my partner and I were very active on social media, not even necessarily all to gain followers or for business, but we were just active because we like to take pictures and post anyway. And, people started to literally fall in love with our personas, just posting, we'll talk about their hair, we'll tag their hair. And people were really interested in the fact that, these two girls, because obviously you don't really have that many female business partners. So people were really excited about the fact that, we were doing it, we were getting along, and our hair actually looked nice. So I think they kind of bought into more of our persona, and that really, really helped the brand. And of course, Good Hair is a luxury brand. We do a lot of lifestyle as well, and people really like that. So I think that's what really, really helped us, in our first couple of years in business.
So in terms of being intentional, now you've realized that, people are, as much as they're coming for your hair, they're coming for your brand. What kind of steps did you have to take? And I'm thinking, because let's say other people are creating a new brand and they realize their personality is attached to their brand. What kind of questions do you need to ask yourself? What kind of things do you need to do to make sure that suddenly it's not a seasonal craving, but that you actually have longevity in the market?
So I think, first of all, people also have to do what comes natural to them. If you do what's natural to you, then it's more sustainable. If you're constantly trying to please, people or please the crowd, that's not going to last long, because how long can you really pretend for? So if what comes natural to you appeals to people, I'll say focus on that. Be consistent. A lot of people, sort of start big, they do a lot, they're out there, and then they get tired because it's not easy. It looks like sometimes we're having fun, but really and truly it is work. The need to post every single time, the need to look on point every single time, just to make sure that you're always in character. It is a lot of work, and it takes a lot of effort, So if you want to go down that path, you must be willing to do it pretty much on a daily. When I go to the salon every single day, when the clients come in, sometimes just the fact that I look nice, my hair looks nice, they want to buy. As opposed to the days that I come in, looking like a bum, I don't create much of an impression. But when you look nice, believe it or not, people are more, compelled to want to appease you, basically. And if that means buying your products, they will buy your products. So I'll say, keeping it consistent, you can be intentional. So if you feel like certain aspects of your character or your lifestyle attracts people, then maybe focus on that a lot more. I noticed during the lockdown, I started a lot more reels and TikTok videos, and I think that showed a bit more of my personality. And I realized that endeared people to me a lot. All of a sudden, I didn't seem like a robot anymore. I seemed like this person that is normal, can dance, they can relate to. And because I saw the reception that I was getting from that, I started to do a lot more of those, and it's worked so far. So if you see something that works, I'll say, carry on doing that and just stay consistent. Don't give up.
I want to talk about the power of social media and building a brand. Because I saw your video not long ago, the one with the Busta Rhymes challenge where you're changing. How long does that take to do all these different outfits, these different wigs and everything? And how intentional do you have to be when you're building your brand and pushing and using social media, right? And how powerful is that as a tool?
Okay, so first of all, those reels take forever. For something that is 15 seconds, it takes at least 6-7 hours sometimes.
When you're thinking about the posts and stuff you're going to do, right? What level of intentionality do you have to go through when you're considering social media as a way of pushing your brand? What kind of questions do you have to ask yourself? And what kind of how to best reach your target audience and things like that?
So social media is a very powerful tool. It's just the times that we're in, I remember back in the days, even my parents, they're like, why are you always taking pictures? Why are you so vain? Why are you this? Why are you that? Why do you always have to post? And I'm like, you don't understand. I can't even explain it. It's just one of those things that, we just know that it is what it is. Everyone's on social media, young, old, mid-range, the millennials, Z, what do they call them? Generation Z. They're all on it. So you have to figure out what target audience am I trying to reach, and, what are they looking for? Once you figure that out, it makes it slightly easier, because you know that, okay, this is what these lot like to see. So let me tailor myself to suit that market. Or if it's the older generation, obviously they want to see slightly more composed, pictures, attitude, all that stuff. So once you figure that out, you need to decide, obviously posting times, very important. Unfortunately, you can't, you can post whenever you want, but if you're trying to reach a certain audience, let's say your audience is in America, you don't want to post when they're fast asleep, because they're not going to see it, so you want to target the times that that they're going to be awake. If your target audience is in, say, the UK or Lagos, obviously the 6 p.m, 12 p.m, lunchtime, when people are just waking up in the morning, those types of things. Luckily, there are apps now where you can actually schedule your posts. So you just put the time that you want it to go up and it will go up. Or obviously, if you can wake up early, you can do that.
Okay, so you and Kika first, you start this business and you're working like effectively you start to realize that you have an idea on your hands and now you want to turn it into a business. Now you've reached a point where you're global. You're here, you're in the UK, you're in America, like you're building and you're selling internationally. What structures suddenly need to be put in place to make that viable?
So yeah, in order to make that viable, you have to have a plan. So yes, sometimes we do freestyle, but I think that, for every business to grow, expand, you have to have a plan to figure out where you want to be, where you want to be seen, and how that market works, and then, work accordingly. At the moment, what is most feasible for hair companies and, for most products, to be honest, is online. You can have your physical stores. Obviously, those are great. It just makes it more convenient for, the customer. But in terms of like feasibility, it wouldn't make sense to have a store every single country in the world. Yet we want to reach every single country in the world. Technically, how do you do that? Make sure you have a great website that's up and running. Obviously, you can also shop on Instagram. Obviously, you know about Shopify. You can actually purchase stuff.
We're learning.
Yeah, you can purchase stuff on Instagram. So just making it very, very convenient for the consumer. Yeah. So think about yourself. If you were online and you wanted to buy something, what's the easiest way for you to do that? What would you consider most convenient? If I could look at a picture, click on something and purchase that item, I'll more likely buy that as opposed to if I needed to physically travel to the store, blah, blah, blah. So currently we do have a website obviously, but we're working on, upgrading our website, making it more user-friendly, making it more adaptable to all the different countries that we're targeting.
So when you do that, because you'd watch, I guess, all these different kind of marketing videos and all this kind of stuff. When you're thinking about your brand, your ideas, your target audience, the people, what ideas come to mind and what do you have to consider when you're building a website? Like what you talk about upgrading right now. So what considerations do you have to put into that? And what questions you're asking yourself to say, what's going to make this website better than it already is?
So most times it's just experience, we just kind of we just operate and then we see what people like, you kind of just see how times are going, times are changing, what people are starting to gravitate towards, and then you jump on that bandwagon. We never get left behind. Anything that's happening, we're on that immediately. So if we see that, what's attracting people more is shopping on Instagram, then we're gonna, create that avenue for people to be able to shop on Instagram. If tomorrow everyone's shopping on TikTok, best believe we're gonna have an avenue where you can shop on TikTok, So you just have to pay attention to the trends, what people are doing, what people are, gravitating towards, and ensure that you're doing that. Also, sometimes you can do surveys. So we do that from time to time, every couple of years, though, not all the time. We do surveys, we reach out to every single person that's ever purchased from us and our potential target audience. And we just ask loads of questions, depending on what we're trying to achieve. And obviously we go by, the greatest answers.
People always talk about know your market, know your market. So I want to ask you a question about your market, right? How has hair changed from where you started? I mean, it was all human hair then, right? And it's human hair now. So what's changed about the hair industry and that you've noticed and trends that you've had to adjust your business to?
Okay, so initially when we started, human hair was authentic. It was virgin human hair that came from a donor's head, meaning another human being's head. They would cut their hair. So for instance, take countries like India, people cut their hair for religious purposes. You have other countries like maybe Brazil, Peru, people cut their hair because they need the money. So they sell it and they make money from it. And so when you were buying human hair, you were getting actual authentic human hair from somebody's head, meaning that it was more natural looking, longer lasting and all of that stuff. Now, the Chinese, obviously with all their technology, they've literally taken over. So they've collected all of this human hair from all these different countries, started to mix it with, synthetic hair, which is obviously hair that's not great quality. And they've created this thing where it looks good, it can last, longer than synthetic hair, but it's not authentic virgin human hair. So they've saturated the market, they've watered it down and made it so affordable where people just feel like they can just order directly from these Chinese vendors as opposed to, ordering from proper companies that, do the real deal. Now we travel to all the different countries to purchase our hair. We
travel, like you send people to travel or you go to all the countries.
So every single country that we deal with in terms of our hair, we've physically been, some of these countries a number of times, others maybe once or twice, but we physically go there because we have to obviously ensure the quality of what we're getting. We literally go there will know their children, the schools they go to, because sometimes these suppliers, they mess you up. They can supply you a good batch and then a bad batch just because. So in order to avoid that, obviously lessons that we learned when we started, we go and, form a relationship with them just to ensure that, we're dealing with them on a proper basis. So our hair's authentic. And I feel like people that want real human hair will go to, proper vendors. But of course, like you have younger people straight out of university, they can't really afford luxury hair. So this Chinese alternative is a good one for them.
You saw the Chinese alternative coming in. It puts a lot of competition. What kind of decisions and what did you have to do to readjust your business or your business style to keep up with that?
So at the moment, we're working on like a diffusion line, so which is a more affordable hair range, because the reason why people are gravitating towards this Chinese market is not because the hair is great, it's just because it's affordable. Yeah. So it means that there are more people that would rather buy cheaper hair than those that can afford to buy, this more expensive hair. So in order to, bridge that gap, we're coming up with a line that is more affordable, still good quality, not as bad as what's out there, but maybe not as great as what we already have, just somewhere in between, so the younger girls can afford it.
Okay, so you talked about mistakes you've made and things you've learned. So I always like to hone in on this because I think it's important to learn from your mistakes when anyone's going into business. So what kind of mistakes can you give me? Let's talk about that you've made that kind of have scarred you, but at the same time helped you grow and understand strategy in business.
So I think initially when we first started, the biggest shocker was, ordering from one particular supplier and it was going great. And then we ordered from the same supplier and they sent us a really, really terrible batch. Oh my God, every single person that bought the hair, they called back to complain. They were shouting, what kind of rubbish is this? How can we pay so much money for this nonsense hair? It was so embarrassing because obviously we pride in being a luxury hair company, blah, blah, blah. So that's the first, that was the first, I won't really call it a mistake, but that was the first shocker that we got, and then that's when we started traveling to meet them and form a relationship and a rapport with suppliers. So that's the first thing. The second big mistake, I wouldn't call it a mistake, but like moving to Nigeria, starting a business in Nigeria.
Interesting, right? So why would you call it or not call it a mistake?
I think anyone that has any sort of business in Nigeria knows that it is madness. Like the moment it is madness, everything. First of all, there's no access to funding, so you're on your own basically. When you start, all these unforeseen expenditures, generator, diesel, NEPA, and then of course, staffing in Nigeria, we all understand how the game goes. It is crazy. Everyone's looking for the next buck. So you train them, do all of this stuff. Somebody offers them 5K more and they're gone, So I think that was the biggest blow. And
so how do you deal with that? Because I mean, naturally, a lot of the people that are going to be sitting here listening to this conversation are building and trying to build businesses in Nigeria. So how do you deal with some of the unique challenges that comes with the Nigeria factor?
Guys, can't deal with it. It is what it is. That's all I can say. You can't deal with it. There's no answer. There's no solution. If there was, we would be doing that. Do you know what I mean? There's no solution, honestly. Like, there's no solution. I don't know what the solution is, to be honest. When it comes to staff, I mean, do you know what the truth is? When we started out in Lagos, obviously we just moved back from London. We did have staff in London. And in England, how it works is the nicer you are, the more benefits you give, the more you get back from them. So they'll give you everything. They'll be happy to work late, this, that, and the other. So obviously we started that in Nigeria, being super nice, paying so high, paying way above our competitors, just being super, super nice, super extra. The way it backfired, it was like film trick. Everything, like every single person, they'll either just leave or just steal or it was just crazy. And I couldn't understand. I'm like, but we're so nice to you. We do everything. Like, what do you want? And then I realized that in Nigeria, it's actually the opposite. You can't, not saying like obviously be mean to your employees because you can't be mean, but it's just keep it strictly professional. I just found that all these extra added benefits, I just don't really think that it works, for those types of jobs anyway. So that's one thing that I realized. With regards to every other thing, so like say obviously diesel, generator, all those costs, you can't control that, So I'll just say have a contingency fund, so that's money that you just set aside for anything and everything that could go wrong in Nigeria because it's going to happen.
In that sense, does working in Nigeria, like you said, diesel, all those kind of things, does that affect your how does that affect your pricing? Does that affect your pricing, or do you not take that into consideration?
So for us, initially we took that into consideration, so the prices were slightly higher. But then what happened was people would always compare. They're like, "Oh, but on your website it says this, so how come now it's saying that?" You know, they would always complain, and then we'll try to explain. Okay, obviously shipping, you know, clearing and this and that. But you know how Nigerians are; they don't understand that. But they're really asking you for discount, and then you're now trying to, you know, charge them more than what you're charging in your other branches. So they just weren't having it. So we had to put the prices on par with, you know, our international prices, meaning that technically you're earning slightly less because you have all of these other expenses being in Nigeria. And then the dollar rate. So when we started, dollar was 150, and then now dollar is on its way to what, like 1,000? I don't know. It's like 500 today. It's so ridiculous.
500,
and obviously businesses like ours, you know, we purchase in dollars. But then you can't really charge people here in dollars because they find it so offensive if you give them a dollar price. So you purchase in dollars, charge in naira. Let's say you're charging 300K, for instance, and then the dollar rate has now quadrupled. Am I supposed to quadruple that 300K to 1.2? Can people afford it? Of course not. You know, so you're constantly like making less. Your profit is constantly, you know, reducing running a business here.
I would ask again how you adjusted that, just in case you have an answer that's different to you can't.
So, I mean, everyone kind of understands, you know, what's going on. So you up your prices slightly, but really and truly, like, what can you do? You can up your prices in accordance to the dollar rate and, you know, what you feel like you should be charging, but then you can't outprice yourself out of the market. You know, people can't really afford it. You know, the dollar rate is going up, but then people's salaries are not going up. You know, if anything, there's actually less opportunities, you know, for jobs, and the country, no offense, is in shambles right now. You know, foreign investors are leaving. Our infrastructure is literally collapsing on our heads. And, you know, it's like, where do you go from here? People are not earning more, but then products are costing more.
Good hair. How important do you think a name is to a brand?
I think your name is everything. It's the first thing.
And so what made you stick with Good Hair?
It's self-explanatory. It's hair. That's
good. Good is self-explanatory.
It's hair. That's good. You know, the hair is good. It's good hair. So when you hear good hair, you already know what to expect.
And you've built a brand. I honestly, you know, I can't say Chioma. I just say Chioma. Good hair. Do you get what I mean? There's that. So how much does it goes into making sure that your brand is so strong, right, that people know immediately? I mean, no one can even describe. You can't go and describe someone else's hair as good hair because naturally you're effectively advertising for yourself, for you. I want to talk about a little bit the ways you've kind of expanded. So you started off, and obviously there's good hair. And when you're in Nigeria, you've got things like brass and copper and all of that. So how does that work in building your brand, and how do you put structures around that self-helps each?
So I feel like with us, our brand building has literally just been on the fact that we've been consistent. You know, people say, how have you been in this game for 12 years? A lot of people have come and gone, and that's the truth. I don't know any other company that's lasted this long and still been on top. You know, obviously, thank God for that. I'm not going to take all the glory because it definitely can't. It's not by chance. You know, but I just think that staying consistent, being innovative. So we're constantly thinking of new trends, new things to do, you know, new ways to excite people effectively. And I think that that's really worked. Obviously, with our brand, me and Kika, very, very consistent, you know, the things that we post, the fact that we always look a certain way, you know, the fact that we're constantly promoting our product. Some people post, you know, let's say on their personal page, and they don't promote their products. Do you understand? Because they want to draw that line. But because we're infused with the brand, we have to carry both along. So you're not going to see me having a bad hair day. There's nothing like that in my dictionary. It's always going to be a good hair day. Why? Because I'm advertising good hair at every point in time. You know, so yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the risks that come with being so attached to your brand that what if, like you said, you fall off, you have some negative publicity in some way. How do you stabilize and keep your brand strong when your brand is so attached to your reputation as well? So
honestly, having your brand attached to your person is a problem. You know, it's great. Obviously, there are perks because you can kind of like control the narrative of your brand and you know, it's nice. But it's such a great risk because you are that brand. That brand is you. So it means that the business cannot necessarily run detach from you, which is not a good thing because it means that you're a slave to that business, and it's not necessarily ideal. I remember back in the days, whenever I'll give business advice, I'm like, yeah, show your face, be the face of your business is great. It helps because it did help. But in hindsight, honestly, if I could change things, maybe I would have had the two separate,
And so are there any, I'm not asking for your business strategy or plan, but are there any, what considerations are being taken for, like I said, you think about the longevity of a business, right? What plans or considerations are there for good hair exceeding,
separate
going past
Chioma.
going beyond Chioma?
Okay, so first of all, obviously in the social media world, why do people buy stuff? Because they see it on someone or something and they like it. So we are our biggest advertisers. We've not really had that many ambassadors. If we've had an ambassador, we've just done it because just for the heck of it, not so much because we needed them or the business couldn't do without them. Because no human being has brought us more clients than we brought ourselves just by physically wearing their hair. But that's not great because it means that you always have to show up, and it does affect other things. Like if you want to start a family, if you want to travel, if you want to do this, you want to do that, you're almost a slave to the business. You can't do so many other things, because of this business. So what we are effectively going to have to do is get other people to represent the brand. So get other faces of the brand, Obviously, it might take a dip initially because people kind of want to see you, but they will get used to the fact that other people are representing that brand, So getting other ambassadors, other influencers, just other people to basically become the face of that brand, and then sort of like nurturing them to do things the way you like them to be done, the way you do it. And if they can show up as you, then, it's a win-win.
So one day, Beyonce good hair, stuff like that.
Pretty much.
So what made you diversify in the point? Because obviously you've got there's the mall, right? And then in the Goodway store, there's also like brass and copper, like I mentioned earlier. What made you diversify, or what was the reason behind expanding beyond the hair?
So the crazy thing is just randomly, and that's why they say like speak things into existence, because what you sort of like portray in your head can become your reality. I've always kind of like had an idea of what I wanted my restaurant, if I ever owned a restaurant, to look like, which is so weird. I had no plans of owning a restaurant. It wasn't even in my projections, no foresight of it. All I knew was if I ever have a restaurant in this life, I wanted to look this way. I literally had an entire folder saved on this restaurant. Now, when we were moving, because initially when we moved to Nigeria, we had a small space in Lekki. It was really tiny. It was cute, but small. And in like 2 years, we had outgrown the space, meaning we had more clients. The demand was so much bigger than the space that we had. So we needed to expand. So in looking for a new space, we found this really cute L-shaped sort of location in Lekki, very different. You know how like in Nigeria, malls are like just someone's house converted. And I really didn't like how those looked. So when I found this space, I was like, we have to get this space. Like, I don't care what we're going to do with the rest of it, but, we're taking this space, and we took the mall. Now, we had obviously other shops in there that we needed to let out. So I reached out to one of my cousins who owned a nightclub called Cocoon, if you know Cocoon, in Ikoyi. And I was like, oh, do you guys want to rent the space? Do you want to do something here? Maybe a bar, a lounge? And they were like, oh, yeah, we'll just bring Cocoon to Lekki. And I was like, you're not going to have a club right next to Good Hair. Like, that's not going to happen. I was like, tone it down, do like a restaurant or a bar, something chilled, where people could go to, after getting their hair done. And, they were like, okay, yeah, we could do a restaurant, but we've never done a restaurant before. We don't really know how to go about it. They were like, do you have any idea on how to run a restaurant? Now, being the sharp Igbo girl that I am, I was like, well, yeah, actually, I could figure it out. So yeah, no problem. Let's partner. And then so we partnered with them, and we literally started Brass and Copper. It was one phone conversation. They were like, yeah, sure, let's partner. And then Brass and Copper came about.
Your name is everything. So where did Brass and Copper come from?
So my part, Kika and I, we love copper, rose gold copper. Like, we just were so obsessed with, that color or metal, whatever you call it. And we wanted to basically have every single thing in there, copper. From our cutlery to our decor, everything copper, copper, copper. So we were like, okay, we have to call it something copper. And what goes with copper? Brass and copper.
I love the art behind creating the names. I want to ask a little bit about business partner, because so the idea, and I've had a lot of conversations with people who are building successful businesses, and a lot of them are not doing it by themselves. So what is the importance of finding a good partner and partnering in business?
I think finding a good partner is everything. It's so important, because it can make or break your business. If you have a partner that's not on the same page as you, that's not trying to grow, at the same pace and isn't really understanding your vision, you're going to have a lot of problems. You will run into problems, because what they will do effectively is frustrate all your efforts, which in turn obviously will put you off, and that's going to destroy the business. So when you have a partner that is on the same page, it makes it twice as nice, because like take my partner and I, for instance. When I'm strong, she's weak. When she's weak, I'm strong. Sometimes we're both strong together. It's amazing. We're never both weak together. Does that make sense? So we don't have any downtime. The business doesn't have any downtime. There's not going to be a period where, we're not functioning, because if I can't do it, she's doing it. If she can't do it, I'm doing it, In terms of innovation, we're both on the ball. So I'm constantly thinking of different ideas. She's thinking of different ideas. So you have double for your trouble, basically. I just think it's really important finding the right partner. If you can't find the right partner, you're actually better off doing it alone, as opposed to...
What contributes to what needs considering in finding the right partner? What question?
Your visions have to align. You have to speak to this person, understand their long-term goals, understand where they want to see the business, aside from you. If you're both saying the same thing, you're both on the same part, then I think it works. Also, another thing for my business in particular, because obviously I can't speak for everyone, with my business partner, we're very, very similar in terms of our interests, the way that we look, our hair, our this, our that, but then we're also very different personalities. And I think that that's really, really helpful, because some of the things that I like to do, so for instance, when it comes to, I'm always thinking of the next thing. Okay, let's do this, let's do that. I always have one idea or the other that I want us to execute, and she's very easygoing. So when I come up with these ideas, she's very happy to run along with it, Now imagine if we were the exact same. I'll be like, okay, let's do this. I'll be like, let's do that. Do you understand? And we'll start to clash. So I think that's really, really helped in that sense. And she's great at advertising. All Kika does is Snapchat in front of the mirror, she's forever snapping and filming and this and that. I like to do that, but believe it or not all the time. Like sometimes I just can't be asked. I might look nice, I just will forget to snap. She will never forget to snap, so she's quite entertaining. And so she does that really well. So when you merge the two, it is fantastic. So having personality traits that don't clash, I think is very, very important. So you both can't be strong-headed, basically.
One thing that I've thought a lot about with this whole idea of partnership is you want someone, like you've said, you want someone that you have a lot in common with. You also want someone that you also have enough differences so that you're helping one another. What happens when you do clash?
So it depends on the kind of money that you're making. If it's money you could dispense with, then dispense. But if you're making serious money, when you clash, you sort it out. That's what happens, One person has to be the bigger person. And I feel like my partnership is like a marriage. Kika and I are literally married to each other, in business and in person. Like, we have to make it work. There's no fighting. You can't come to Kika and be like, oh, Chioma said this stuff. She'll be like, get out. Do you understand? And you can't come and tell me anything about her, because we understand the importance of what we're doing, and it just has to work. So if there are any issues, as like you would do in a marriage, one person has to take the high road. So one person will have to defer for the other person, because the ultimate goal is obviously to be successful, to be happy. So you have to find a way to make it work. You just
Who
have
defers
to.
more?
That would be telling.
I have a feeling.
Kika's definitely more easyggoing,
You already said she's more easygoing.
Easygoing when it comes to business and decisions, but personality-wise, she's don't play with her.
Okay. So I'm looking at how much you've managed to accomplish in using the power of social media and power of your self-brand. I've been talking a lot with different people about the whole key man risk, which you've acknowledged, right? What happens if you're not present when you're so closely attached to your brand? What happens to your brand if Instagram shuts down tomorrow?
So haters always ask me. Haters always ask. They'll be like, so what would you do if social media disappeared? I'm like, I'll be the exact same person. And we're so good on social media because we're not pretending. And this is what I said at the start. Do what comes natural to you, because how much are you going to put up this persona for? Do you know what I mean? Take away Instagram, take away Snapchat, take away anything that is social media that gives random people access to you. You will still get me. Not a single thing about me will change. Not my personality, not the way that I look, nothing. I am this person, always been, always will be. Now, if obviously social media allows for a wider reach where, the rest of the world can see you at the same time. If social media went, at the most, what will happen is maybe sales might slightly reduce because we don't have as large an audience. We don't have access to a larger audience. But trust me, every single person that's around me that's seeing will sell my product for me because, like I said, word of mouth. Your product has to be good. It's not just about social media. Even if it was just social media, if your product wasn't good, you'll get one-time customers. You won't get repeat customers, you know. So because we actually sell good stuff, all our products are actually good. Our service is great. Every single person that comes will come back and come back. They'll tell all their family, all their friends, and we'll continue to grow our database. So we don't need social media. It's just an added advantage.
Awesome, powerful. I like that. So what? Let's say social media disappears tomorrow, right? And you want to reach the same people you were reaching before. Suddenly, your reach has gone a little bit smaller. What do you do to get those same people?
So you want to basically show up in other markets, you know. So once you've conquered your local, so for us, if we conquered the UK and Nigeria, what would you do next? Go to America, you know, be seen there, maybe set up shop there, get people that would, you know, effectively ambassadors that will advertise your products, you know, partner with other people, get franchises in different countries. So that way, even if they're not physically seeing you, they're seeing your brand, they're seeing your name, they're seeing your products, you know, and that way you're everywhere. There's emails, you know, you could do newsletters, you know, people even buy data these days. You buy like literally people's addresses and names and numbers, and you reach out to all of these people, advertise yourself.
So I want to talk a little bit about how you get to the point where you're able to start seeking and reaching investors, and what kind of questions do you need to be able to answer? Because I know that you can look at things on both sides of the coin, because you also do help invest in people's businesses and stuff like that. So as an investor, from an investor's perspective, what kind of things are you looking for, and what kind of questions do you need answered before you invest in a business?
So first of all, anyone that's investing, they want to know their returns. You know, yes, I care about you, I want to help you, but I want to know how soon am I going to make my money back, and how much are we talking? So you have to have your numbers right, have your figures right, you know. Obviously, make sure your books are in check, your accounting, your profitability, all of that stuff, you know, forecasting, get everything right. Because the first thing they're probably going to ask you is, you know, how soon do you think you could recoup this money? And, you know, how much more are we talking? They want to know how this is going to be of benefit to them. Otherwise, it's not a charity case. In the event that you are investing for charitable purposes, which, as you said, I do invest in other people's businesses, but most times it is just to assist them, you know, just because, you know, women don't really have access to funding in Nigeria, you know, as much as their male counterparts. So in that case, I want to know what you're doing, the feasibility, you know, how sustainable is this business? How much effort have you put into it? And, you know, where do you see yourself long term? And once I feel like, okay, this is a viable business that actually does add value to society, then I'm more likely to invest in that business.
I want to talk a bit about that, right? So a lot of your focus when you're investing is in women in business, right? And so what is the importance, do you believe, in giving women more firm footing in the business space, and how do you think that changes the landscape of Nigeria?
So first of all, we don't have that many women at the top, you know, and where is Nigeria? Look at the state of things, you know. So just imagine like having a lot more women. And of course, like other countries that are slightly more enlightened, you have women on top, women in power, and these countries are succeeding. They're doing exceedingly well. So that just goes to show that obviously there's something, you know, with women, there is something that we have to offer to society. There's something that we do bring to the table. And I feel like if a lot more women were opportune to, you know, sit at these tables, be on these boards, you know, there's going to be a huge difference in Nigeria. There's going to be like, things will change drastically. And a way that we can start empowering them, obviously, is, you know, through businesses, just giving them some sort of financial independence. Because when you have financial independence, then you can even start talking about power and coming, you know, to have a seat at these tables. And of course, if you can't have a seat at the table, build your own damn table, you know. But yeah, for me, it's all about women empowerment. I think that women are the future, and any way that I can support them, I will. You know, if I had a lot more support at the start, you know, just generally, I feel like we would have gone further, even faster.
And so I know how you do that on a personal scale. On a bigger scale, what kind of things do you need to see people doing to give women that seat at the table, to encourage that?
So I think that there needs to be more access to funding for women in business. You know, they need to just make it easier for them. I think that the government as well needs to come up with different schemes where people can get trained at least, because I know that, you know, Nigeria is still quite traditional and quite backwards, you know, in the sense that they feel like a woman's place is in the kitchen, in the bedroom, in the house. And of course, there is the nurturing aspect of it where, you know, we need to nurture our children and all this kind of stuff. But I feel like if they had more schemes where women could be trained, so for instance, even hairdressing, sewing, all these different things. If we had that opportunity where they could get trained, then that way they can actually bring more to the table, so it doesn't have to be just the man providing and the woman nurturing the kids. She can go and learn a skill, still nurture the kids, go to work, have her own business and still bring bread to the table as well. So you could get best of both worlds with women. When you're trying to build yourself, right, you said you had a lot of struggles personally, not necessarily struggles, let's say you've been through your hardships. It would be good to have more help starting out and all those kind of things, right? What would you do different from where you are today? What would you do different when you started your business? Would you do anything different? So I wouldn't do anything differently just because we've had a very organic growth. And I think that was really important. We started off well. We started off at the level that we could handle at the time. Yeah. If we started any bigger, which at times we had wanted to, and it just didn't work out because, like I said, lack of access to funding, lack of opportunities, for women. If we had started bigger, we probably would have crumbled quicker because we wouldn't have been able to handle the pressure or really understood the market, at the time. So that opportunity to grow organically, I think, is also part of why we've lasted this long, because everything has happened at the right time, right place, right space, and to the right capacity that we could handle. What would you say to people about kind of carving out your own niche in a market? Because, you weren't the first people to do hair. You weren't the first people to sell hair. So how do you start carving out your own niche and building a market for yourself where maybe there doesn't seem to be a stronger market? So we don't believe in copying. Copy is, don't do that. Like, I hate people that copy. I just find it so cringe. You have to be innovative. If you're not able to be innovative, hire someone that will think for you, someone that will come up with ideas to make you stand out. You cannot just copy and paste what the next person is doing, because what happens is you'll always be in their shadow. You'll always be behind them. You'll always be a couple steps behind. What you want to do is lead in your own corner. If you end up having people that follow you, no problem. But I'd rather be the leader than the follower, So yeah, just ensuring that you are coming up with trends, coming up with ideas that people haven't thought of. And in all of this, you are creating value. One thing that I always say is to people that want to start businesses when I mentor them is think of something that is an answer to a question that everybody has, So with hair, for instance, there was a point where everybody was like, oh, I hate closures. It looks so artificial. You can tell that, I'm wearing a wig. I want it to look more natural. And that's how frontals came about. Yes, we didn't come up with frontals, the idea of it, but we did come up with the best looking frontals known to man till date, And how did we do that? We traveled and we manufactured, we literally designed and created our own frontals. For those that didn't understand, frontals are like, it's the thing at the front. It's literally like something that you put at the front of a wig that makes it look more natural, And yeah, we designed our own frontals and we led that market for the longest time. Everybody followed. But of course, you'd rather go to the source than the replica. Yeah. So one must always stay on top of their game. Okay. So it's important to kind of, one, be original, create your own market for yourself. But when you're doing that, you're starting off, you have created your own market in some sort of way. What would you say is important for people to know, right, about going into business, starting out on your own? About bootstrapping is one thing I've talked about. A lot of people have talked about this idea of starting out small, because you're talking about growing organically. How much do you have to take on for yourself, and for how long do you kind of do that before you realize, yes, it's time to scale up, it's time to bring other people in, it's time to actually grow my business? What would you say are the signs of getting to the point where, it's time to stop trying to do this by myself? Okay, so first of all, with good hair, can only talk about good hair as I know. Initially, we started, really, 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 really small. So small. I think our initial investment was £800 each. And we ordered hair, we sold it, obviously made the capital back and profits, put back the profit into the business, so we scaled up, and then we were doing this for like a year, So obviously what we started off with and what we were ordering by the end of the year was almost like 10 times more. Obviously, because we kept putting our profit back into the business. The business was growing. And then it got to a point where, and we weren't doing this necessarily because we understood business and we knew that, okay, you had to put back, it was just, we wanted it to grow. Obviously, we weren't ordering a lot and we had a lot of demand. So we needed to, meet that demand. And we literally had to put the money back in the business because we didn't have access to funding again. Now, after like a year or so, the business kind of like leveled out, the demand and the supply was sort of like, at par. And we stopped reinvesting profit back into the business. Now, every single thing that we made in profit, we would just squander. We were young at the time, you know, we were like 18, 19. We'll literally go to Selfridges and purchase the entire store, you know, because every single bit of profit we made, we spent. We paid ourselves. Our profit was our salary, basically, and we just spent everything. So what happened was the business just remained stagnant, you know. So whatever we were ordering that year is what we were ordering for the next 2 years, which was so ridiculous because obviously if we had more to sell, we would have, you know, our demand would have been able to supply more and, you know, make more in the long run. But we didn't understand this. So we literally like were stagnant. And I think luckily for us, our demand once again became so much more than we were able to supply that we're like, okay, actually we need to put more money back in this business. And because we didn't necessarily want to like, you know, get investment from other people because we didn't want to give out any shares in our business. So we just literally went back to what we were doing at the start, which is now dividing our profit. So what we now decided was, okay, we'll take 50% of our profit, you know, put 50% back in the business and then the other 50%, divide that as well, pay salaries and then have like, you know, just contingency for the business. And that kind of like worked. You know it's time to grow when your demand is more than your supply. Or like, for instance, with our first space that we got in Lagos, when that demand is more than you can more than your space can handle, it's a no-brainer. You know that it's time to scale up, and then you do. I don't really advise people to scale up until the time comes. And trust me, when the time comes, you will know, because you will become uncomfortable in the space that you're operating in. You know, not necessarily physical space, but just in that business space that you will know that, okay, I need to do more for this business.
And so what are these signs? I want to go into I want to try and dig at some of the details, right? You talked about being uncomfortable in your space. What are the kind of things that became impossible for you to do unless you began to scale up? What are the kind of things that just...
So I remember one Christmas, so in our space in Lushmore in Lekki, it was literally a tiny box and our office was even a smaller box. I remember one Christmas, we had all the seats were filled up. People were getting their hair done in our office. Somebody was in the toilets getting her hair done. There were like 5 people outside. It was ridiculous. You know, physically, it was a nuisance. And we couldn't even turn people back because they didn't want to go anywhere else. They're like, oh, no, I must do my hair in this good hair. So they were happy to sit outside to get their hair done. They were happy to sit in our office. Someone was happy to sit in the toilet to get their hair done, you know. So it was a no-brainer. We needed a bigger space, you know. And assuming there wasn't a physical space, it will be the same thing online. You have more people ordering than you physically have to supply. So what will happen is you'll start telling people, oh, you know, you need to wait, give us, you know, 2 weeks. And you don't want to be doing that in business. If somebody's coming to buy, trust me, you want to, you know, supply to that person because there's competition everywhere. There's so many other people that can probably give them what they're asking for. So you have to have that product, you know. So that also, that also will happen in, you know, the store in London. People will be ordering hair and we just won't have enough stock to give them. So then it was a no-brainer.
So when you're starting out, give advice to people starting out fresh business initially on their own. What are the questions that they need to be able to answer before they decide to even get into a space, right? Because you can be led by passion. You had a personal passion for appearance, hair, all of that. But then what critical questions do you need to be able to answer before you say, I can actually do this as something that I want to do for my life? I mean, I'm guessing when you started, you didn't really think good hair was going to be it, right? It started off as...
I'm a lawyer.
Right? And so what questions do you need to be able to answer before you decide that this is actually a space worth sitting in? Okay,
so before you start any business, first of all, if you want to know if a business is worth it, ask yourself, is this business worth it? Who's it going to appeal to? What question am I answering? You know, is this needed? Is it relevant? Is it necessary? Can people do without it? Or do people absolutely need it? If it's something that people absolutely need, then you have a higher chance of succeeding. If it's something that you're just trying to introduce into the market that, you know, people have to sort of like catch onto, then I think you need to be passionate about it, because obviously it will take a longer time for people to be able to get onto that, jump on that product or that service. So make sure that you are passionate about what it is that you're trying to do. Also, how feasible is it? You know, where is your target audience? Can I reach that target audience? Are they in my country? If they're not in my country, do I have access to, you know, these other countries? If I have to reach them via social media, am I able to come on social media? Am I able to sell on social media? Or am I able to afford someone who can run my social media? You know, so I feel like now a lot of people, you know, because they see the after effects of entrepreneurship. They see the glam, they see the traveling, they see this, they see that. Every single day in my DMs, all I get is, I love you, I want to be like you. And in my head, I'm thinking, it took me 12 years to get to this point, but okay, good luck, you know. But people see that and they just feel like overnight they're going to get that, you know, or they'll say, oh, I want to come and work with you so I can live like you. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. You have to build, you have to be consistent, you have to be ready to stand the test of time. You know, you have to be patient. And patience is what a lot of people do not have at this point. It can take you 10 years to succeed in business. It can take you 2 years. Some people, it's instant. You know, for us, I say to people that we broke even on our first month, but we were just lucky. We were operating in a space that was necessary at the time. Everybody wanted human hair. They wanted access to it. And we came in slightly cheaper than our competitors and we just like took over, you know. But when that's not the case, you know, how long are you willing to be in this industry, in this business until you succeed? You know, so make sure that it's something that, if it's not something that is necessary, that will sell on its own without you having to do much, make sure it's something that you are willing to stand the test of time with, you know.
So you talked a little bit, I'm like jumping and diving different places, just to catch you off guard. You talked a bit about the strains, I guess, of doing business in Nigeria, staff and all that kind of stuff. What role does, because your staff would play a huge role in the appearance of your brand. And so what do you have to put in terms of training and all of that to make sure your staff are up to scratch with your business?
So in business, your team, as an entrepreneur, your team is everything. Like your team is your business. Unless you're looking to do everything yourself, which is physically impossible. And you certainly can't grow or scale if you're doing everything yourself. You can only, as a human being, there's only so much you can do and only so far you can go. So your team is everything. It's important to ensure that they are the best representation of your business. And if that means training constantly, then you train them constantly. You know I went through a phase where I was like, you know what, I'm not training anyone. I don't care, because I will train you, basically boost your CV, make you appealing for the next person, because somebody will see that, oh, okay, they've learned these skills, they're great, and then they will poach them, offer them 5K more, 10K more, and they will bounce, you know. And of course, yes, you know, we all have contracts. There's the contractual aspect of it. But it's like, how many people do you want to sue? Do you understand? It's even stressful to you, the entrepreneur, suing everyone. And our Nigerian legal system, come on now, we know how that goes. It will take you years and years and years to get justice. So it's like, it's almost like, you know, they hold you by the balls, sorry to say. But training is important, you know. I realized that the period that I stopped training staff, who suffered? The business suffered. Whose image suffers? My brand suffers. Do you know what I mean? So you think that you're punishing someone by not training them because you don't trust them, but then effectively, you know, you're going to suffer for it. So you have to constantly train. Now, if I don't physically get other people to come and train them, I do it myself, you know. So every month we have, like, you know, staff meetings with the CEOs, which in this case is myself, because I'm the one that's, like, you know, in the Nigerian side of things. And I train them, customer service, you know, physical training on, you know, how to do the hair, how to manage the business. You have to do it. It is everything.
How do you build a culture in a company? Like you said, team is everything. So how do you build a culture within that team that makes sure that good hair culture runs all the way through?
So we have a handbook, you know, so when you arrive, you get a handbook. So you see everything that is expected of this particular company. And also we have weekly meetings and monthly meetings, you know, so the monthly ones I show up for, the weekly ones, sometimes they have, you know, with the managers and the executives of the business. And then that way you're constantly reminded of what's expected of you, you know, the way things run. Of course, you know, we make it lighthearted refreshments, so that way people feel comfortable and at ease. We also host retreats, you know, so quite frequently, probably like every, you know, big occasion like Easter, Christmas, we have retreats. So they sort of like go, have fun. It'll be something quite relaxing. People get to drink and just talk and just be themselves. So that way you feel like you're a part of a family, as opposed to, you know, just coming to work.
Where you're taking people on retreats, I want to know if I want to be good hair. You're taking them out the country, you're taking them to Akaway, what's going on?
I mean, usually local. Sometimes they get to travel. So, like, you know, we have clients all over the world, obviously. So you have instances where someone's getting married, say like in London or Dubai or anywhere, and, you know, some people will come along. So obviously that, it's work, but it also serves as a holiday. So they tend to love that, you know. But obviously we do local retreats, you know, whether you're going to the beach or you're going out to eat, you know, things like that. And they feel a bit more at ease, you know. You feel like you're a part of something bigger than just work, you know. So it's not just about waking up in the morning, clocking in, working, going, collecting a salary. No, you actually care about the business. You care about, you know, the image of that business, you know. I think that it just makes that little bit more of a difference with the way that they handle your business. So it's important to do that.
So when you deal with staff, culture, all these kind of aspects towards bringing your builders together, you have said from the very top, you're not just a hair company, you're a luxury hair company, right? What are the margins like? Not literally, you don't have to give me numbers. What are the margins like in terms of, realizing that, okay, this is the niche that I'm going for. It's not a huge market. I'm not going for everybody. What kind of things do you have to think about to make sure that you're consistently reaching that group of people, and that group of people consistently want what you have?
So as I said earlier, with good hair, it's a lifestyle, So like I say, why do people buy LV over Zara? The quality is pretty much the same. I have both. I wear both. It is the same thing. If I were to buy a Balenciaga cap, there's no difference between a hat from Balenciaga and our good hair caps. It's the exact same quality. But you buy certain brands because you want to be affiliated with those brands because of what those brands represent. So with good hair, we've coined the business and the brand to be such that when you wear good hair, it's a big deal. When you wear good hair, people assume that maybe you're rich or you have money, or do you understand? There's a certain connotation that comes with being affiliated with that brand, and we've ensured that we've built that. Now, how do we maintain that? How do we consistently have people coming back to us and wanting to be affiliated? Is we up our game. So with the lifestyle game, we continue to up it and up it and up it, and we ensure that the brand is connected to anything that we're doing lifestyle related. Also, like I said, your product itself is important. Your quality has to be great. So you have to ensure that you're keeping up with, like I said, the trends, ensuring that your quality is, consistently good, because there'll be no point spending all of this money and, not having a good product. So if your product is good, your product is great, and it's affiliated with lifestyle, then trust me, you're going to attract the right market,
How much goes into making sure you're also beyond being in line with what the latest trend is, but also creating the next trend?
We always do that. That's why we stand out, because we create all the trends. We always come up with different hairstyles.
What's next in the hair build? What's happening next?
That will be telling. They'll copy, You'll see when it comes out.
Right. So I always like to ask people, what do you think are 3 important golden nuggets that you haven't mentioned so far, right? That everyone starting out a business, going into entrepreneurship, has to think about and know?
Entrepreneurship is very difficult. I think that it looks a lot easier than it is. But with entrepreneurship, you are working round the clock. People that work a 9 to 5, I mean, yes, maybe that's slightly more boring, but at least you clock in and you clock out. You know that at 6 p.m. or 5 p.m., 7 p.m., whatever is done, a client can call you at 12 midnight with a complaint or a request. You have to answer your phone. You can have, anything can happen at any point in time, wherever you are. I could be in London or in America on holiday, vacation with my family, and something is happening in Lagos that requires my urgent attention. That holiday is ending at that very moment, because it's my business, and if I don't take care of it, no one else will. So it's a lot more difficult and a lot more inconvenient than people think. So I would say have that at the back of your mind. If you're prepared for it, it's a lot easier. But if you go in thinking, oh my God, lifestyle enjoyment, you'll be very, very shocked. Also, it takes time. So patience is a virtue, where business is concerned. You have to be patient. You could be doing everything right. You could be hardworking, focused, have your business plan in check. Everything could be perfect. You captured your target audience, and you're just not really making money. People are just not really taking onto your brand. Sometimes it's a matter of luck. That's the truth. You can have 3 people doing the exact same thing, and one person is excelling and the others aren't. I think it's just luck and timing. So if you are patient and you are consistent, at some point you will definitely break through. So be patient, and I would say when the money starts coming in, especially if it just starts to flood in, you have to have some sort of financial culture. If there's anything that I would change in our past, is I wish I knew what I know now then. I would have been a lot richer. I would have had a lot more savings. I would have made my money work for me. I would have had a lot more investments that would have yielded me so much more profit. Now I'm getting into that game a little bit late. Obviously cryptocurrency, all this stuff. We're on that. Bitcoin, Ethereum, everything. We're on that. But I got on a bit late, and I feel like if I'd known this then, because we've made so much money over the years, but it's like we started spending and we started saving a little bit late. Of course, now we're doing good. We have properties, investments, all of that. But if I knew what I know now then, I would have, sorted all this stuff out earlier, and I would have been a richer woman today. So I would say, don't get too excited. It's nice when you just see a huge check in your account or, a lot of money. Don't get too excited. Put back what you need to put in the business, and, put yourself on a salary from day one, 100%. You have to have that discipline. Otherwise, you can run your business down by yourself with your own hands because you're getting excited about how much you're making.
Talk a bit about that discipline that's needed and what you need to consider, because you started and you talked about some of the mistakes you made in terms of at some point taking all your profit and just sharing it. What kind of areas do you need to consider and put strict discipline in, other than salary?
I would say you have to do it from the start. It's not easy, and most times people start a business because they want to make money, they want to start balling. So the first check they get, they're already squandering. And most people, for some reason, feel like they have a point to prove to somebody. So it's like, as soon as they get money, they want to show the world that I've made it. I'm making money. You can't do that. You have to suffer now and smile later. Do you understand? There's nothing better than delayed gratification. Delayed reward. It's much better, because you don't want to be balling now for the 5 years that your business is popping, and then when your business dies, you're now broke for the rest of your life. So invest your money, put yourself on a strict salary. Everybody knows how much they need to sort of run their lives. So do some sort of budget analysis, figure out what you need to survive, maybe, and then a little bit some. Put that as your salary. Put as much as you can back into the business so your business is growing, and then have your contingency fund and your investment fund. It's all about investments. Put your money in places that will allow your money work for you, so that all that enjoyment wouldn't even come from your salary or your business. It will come from the investments that you've made that are now paying for your enjoyment lifestyle.
Sweet. Good to know. Thank you so much, Chioma. Good hair. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.